welcome to Tossing the Pigskin. I'm your host, Nate Smith. This is the Week 5 episode. On today's show, we'll recap the Week 4 betting picks that I made, which didn't go so well, spoiler alert. We'll give you 3 fresh new picks for week number 5, and I have 4 thoughts about the first quarter of the NFL season. Let's get to it. As always, let's start by breaking down the picks against the spread from the previous week. So let's dive into how week number 4 ended up for my gambling picks. The first one was Jaguars money line at the Cincinnati Bengals. I was confident that Minshew would play better than Joe Burrow. That did not happen. I was also confident that the Jaguars' offensive line and overall offensive approach would lead to points and they would be able to handle Cincy's defense, which surprisingly that did not happen either. But the biggest letdown in this game was the Jaguars' defense just did not show up to play. The Bengals really did whatever they wanted to on offense, so this pick was an early loser. Cardinals minus 3.5 at the Panthers was pick number 2, and this one wasn't much better. This one was dead from the get-go. This Panthers defense really impressed me. When you look at this front 7, they're starting 2 rookies in defensive tackle Derek Brown and outside linebacker Jeremy Chin, along with the likes of veterans that are playing good football like linebacker Shaq Thompson. This team really stifled this Cardinals offense early on. Kyler Murray just did not have a good day, didn't throw for a whole lot of yards at all. Matt Rhule and Joe Brady have the Panthers playing very good football, and I undervalued them in this game. Also, Carolina offense had over 400 yards in this one. Arizona might be frauds after all. Pick number 3 was Falcons at the Packers. I took the Packers minus 7.5. Kind of got screwed by this line movement with the news that Devontae Adams would be out late in the week. The betting line dropped all the way down to like Packers minus 5 right before that Monday night kickoff, but thankfully it ended up not mattering. The Packers did cover this one. Falcons had a chance to backdoor late, but Matt Ryan could not make a throw into the end zone. It was deflected by Adrian Amos, thankfully for us. But this was the Robert Tonyan game. No Devontae Adams, no Allen Lazard. It didn't matter. 3 touchdowns for the undrafted free agent out of Indiana State. Credit to Rodgers, man. He's playing great football this year. Now it's time for the Week 5 picks. The past 2 weeks we've gone 1-2. Looking to correct that, 2-1, or hopefully even 3-0. So we'll start with pick number 1, and that's the Panthers money line at the Falcons. Continuing my train of thought from the previous segment, I'm just really impressed by this Panthers team right now. They've, the last 2 weeks, limited the Chargers and the Cardinals offenses, which both are talented units, one led by Justin Herbert and one led by Kyler Murray. Both of which have talented wide receivers on the outside, and the Panthers really shut them down, which was a surprise considering when you look at this Panthers roster on paper, it's young. Starting 3 rookies on this defense, one at all levels, on the defensive line, at outside linebacker, and in the secondary. So I thought that would really show up earlier on this season, but Matt Rhule and Joe Brady have these Carolina Panthers believing that they can win and that they can play in every game. So I just really don't understand this line, to be honest. The Panthers are a better football team than the Falcons right now. I know the Falcons have more veterans and are more experienced by the likes of Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, and Calvin Ridley. They have not been playing good football all year long. They're 0-4. I just like Carolina as an underdog to straight up win this game. Pick number 2, going with another underdog. Give me the Colts at the Browns. I like Browns on the money line here. And I will say, outright, it's not because of Baker Mayfield. I'll give him a bit of credit. He's played better early on in this season than he did at the tail end of 2019. But the credit here for Cleveland belongs to the offensive line. It is arguably the best unit in the entire league right now through the first quarter of the season, which is an interesting talking point because when you look at the Colts, they also likely have a top 5 offensive line. So you look at these front 7s, and the difference to me comes on the defensive side of the ball. Yes, so far the Colts have the number 1 defense in the league right now, but to me there's an asterisk next to that. You got to look at who they've played. The Jaguars, the Vikings, the Jets, and the Bears. 4 offenses that really just don't do a lot for you, can't score the ball consistently, and are seriously lacking in the talent department. The Browns' offense is miles ahead of all those that we just listed. And defensively speaking, the Browns' defensive line is much better than the Colts' defensive line. So I think the Colts' offensive line will have more trouble stopping this Browns front 7. who against the Cowboys last week, this Browns secondary struggled a bit, but again, Dak Prescott is playing great football and was really slinging it to the most talented wide receiving core in the NFL right now. So I'm not going to hold that too much against them. The Colts with Phillip Rivers are not able to throw the ball at the level the Cowboys are. So I think this Browns defense rebounds. Also, the story here, the Browns offense putting up at least 34 points the last 3 weeks. That is impressive. Now, they might not get this high of a number against this talented Colts defense, but I think if they hit about the 28 range, that should be enough to win this game, and I think they do that. Pick number 3, Vikings at the Seahawks, -7. Another Sunday night football matchup. You know how we love those primetime games. This is all about one man, and his name is Russell Wilson. He is the undisputed MVP right now through the first 4 weeks of the NFL season. Leads the league in CPOE, passer rating, and touchdown passes. What more can you ask for? When you look at this Vikings team, 4th from the bottom in opponents' yards per game. I rest my case. Hawks roll by about 10. To wrap up today's show, I'd like to give 4 thoughts for the first quarter of this NFL season. Thought number 1. Josh Allen is far and away the most improved player in the NFL right now. The past 2 seasons, he's struggled with accuracy issues coming out of college, and it showed in his early time as quarterback of the Buffalo Bills. It seems that he's really turned that around. The Bills have turned into a legitimate offensive threat week after week. A lot of credit needs to be given to offensive coordinator Brian DeBole here, but Allen as well. He has the wide receiving core to make it happen. Stephon Diggs, John Brown, Cole Beasley. But he's taken that step. You can just see it in the way he plays quarterback. He's more comfortable, seems to have better touch on his balls, more anticipation, and just he looks more comfortable in the pocket. So props to Josh Allen. He looks great. Point number 2. Either the Browns or the Bucks have the best offensive line in football right now, and that is not something I don't think anyone expected to say after the first quarter of this season. When you look at the Browns, headlined by rookie left tackle Jedrick Wills and all-pro candidate at right guard Wyatt Teller. He's been quite the story. If you cut up his film from his performance against the Dallas Cowboys last week, he was consistently sending their defensive tackles all the way into the depths of the ground. Teller has played phenomenal in each and every game, but seriously, do yourself a favor and go watch some Teller highlights against the Cowboys. It was an absolute clinic. And when you look at the Bucks, they're solid up front. We know Ali Marpet's a stud at left guard, but at right tackle, Tristan Wirfs, the first-round pick out of Iowa, he seems to be one of the jewels of this draft and what's turning out to be a very quality rookie class of offensive tackles. Point number 3, both of the New York teams are the first worst and second worst in the NFL right now. When you're looking at the Jets, that's not exactly a surprise, but I don't think many people thought that the Giants would be the second worst team. They were going to be bottom 10, but the Jets and the Giants are both so stumped offensively right now. They cannot get anything going. Jets are dealing with a lot of injuries, and they also have to battle their head coach week after week, as in Adam Gase seems like actively rooting against his own team and the decisions that he makes, and the offensive schemes don't make a whole lot of sense. And then with the Giants bringing in Jason Garrett to run the offense over the offseason, I mean, that was just a head-scratcher. Garrett was not the reason that the Cowboys' offense was quality last year. I think a lot of that has to do with Kellen Moore, who was the offensive coordinator. And they brought in Jason Garrett, and the Giants are dead last in points per game right now offensively. Losing Saquon Barkley is never going to help. But honestly, even with him there, they weren't playing well. No. Both New York teams are struggling, looking like picks 1 and 2 in the draft right now. And the last and final point I'll make is the Dallas Cowboys defense through the first 4 games of this season is arguably one of the worst defenses I have ever seen in my entire life. There are chunks, just gaps of open space on every play. Players are not giving effort. When you look at the stats, they're last in opponents' points per game. I mean, the Browns just put up 40 on the road on them. They need to figure it out. I'm not sure Mike Nolan is the defensive coordinator everyone thought he would be, or maybe my hopes were just too high for him, but it is a mess in Dallas, and I just don't really see it getting better the rest of the year. I think they'll have the worst defense in football for the rest of the season. Thanks for watching this week's episode of Tossin' the Pigskin. Please like and subscribe, and we hope to see you back here next week.